Bud, why don't you get us started? In the clarification, who does not count? You said Texas, Georgia, Bama, LSU. So that would rule out. That would get us.
We can debate this. I just threw this together really quick when I was getting coffee.
Yeah,
I think the first three are pretty obvious, or the first two are really obvious.
I'll tell you. I wanted to push past. So you mentioned Texas, Georgia, Alabama, LSU. I honestly wanted to push past Ole Miss and Texas A&M and just go ahead and get to that group at 20-1 or beyond. I mean, if Ole Miss or Texas A&M making the SEC championship game would be a first for either one of those programs. So arguing them as a dark horse to win the conference, I would believe it. Or either one of those teams ones you're bullish on?
I would argue there aren't any dark horses in the SEC because simply playing an SEC game makes you one of the greats. So I don't know. I feel like it's rude to call any of these programs a dark horse. They are all elite.
God, Justin Jefferson, Diego Pavia. I mean, so many 32-year-old SEC just have been out here throwing shade at the rest of the conferences as though it's the world's different.
I will say, I feel like Justin Jefferson has more credibility behind
Diego Pavia.
Yeah, I feel like he was a little more accomplished in his time in the SEC than Diego has been.
Justin Jefferson and Diego Pavia both beat Alabama.
They did.
How about that?
Fun fact.
One lost to Georgia State. I don't know if Justin Jefferson lost to Georgia State. Feels like Georgia State would have played LSU when JJ was there. Anyway, Bud, why don't you get us rocking and rolling in the SEC? Where do you want to turn?
Okay, so with the abbreviated, with the updated.
If you want to highlight Ole Miss and Texas A&M, let's dig into it because all these teams we're talking about today is a fun part of college football for me as we're doing our prep because we're going to beat the top 25, 30 teams into the ground leading up to the start of the season. It's this quality of team that I think we got a lot of intrigue.
I actually wasn't going to pick one of those. I'm just surprised that y'all wanted to have Ole Miss and A&M as a no-go. Like, I bet you if you take the average fan out there and say, hey, can you name any Ole Miss players? They would say no.
Right.
And, like, diehard SEC fans can probably only name one. And that's the quarterback if they're, like, really in on Austin Simmons. You know, with A&M, they can probably name, a few players? QB, Ruben Owens, the running back, but probably not many. Maybe if they really follow the transfer portal, they could name.
Well, I was going to say Ole Miss and Texas A&M both have wide receiver rooms made up of portal kids. So I'll tell you who can tell them. Oklahoma State fans can tell you that Deshaun Stribling is now playing at Ole Miss.
Wallace.
Right now. The Penn State fans can tell you what Ole Miss's wide receiver room looks like right now. Alabama fans will say we didn't even want Caleb Odom. 6'5", and he never panned out. So maybe he'll work in Oxford. But
Uman Milan's still there, just a different one.
I know, that's right. Hold on. So Princely is gone.
Yeah, Prince Will is there now.
Prince Will is
from Nebraska.
Yeah.
Yep,
right. That's right. But where do you want to go, Bud?
I'm going to go with the Gators.
Yep.
Again, if we're picking dark horses, I think you have to have high upside stuff. Now, the schedule, which I know Mikey has, that's not an easy schedule. We'll get to that in a second. But, like, talking team first, like, if you're going to have Lagway as your number one returning quarterback in the sport, obviously not Arch Manning edition because Arch Manning didn't start any meaningful games last year. I think you have to have the belief that team could do something special if it all clicks, right? A receiver, like if Dallas Wilson maybe hits early for them, I think you have to like what they have on the offensive line. Defense does bring back a lot of experience. Some of those guys are fairly good players. But to me, this is all Lagway. Like, if they get 13 games of like very high-end, top of his potential range Lagway, or hell, maybe you don't need 13 games. Or maybe you need like 8 good games. And they kind of have a gimme on their schedule in conference probably with Mississippi State. But, there's certainly a path here which is not an easy path. The at LSU game, like, that team brings back a lot. That's not an easy win. They did beat them last year. That's still not an easy dub. The game hosting Texas, again, like, have we seen Texas go and play a lot of difficult road games in the SEC? What was the hardest road game they played last year?
Well, we will this year because all the SEC games are flipped. They hosted all the big dogs. Now they'll go visit all the big dogs on their conference schedule.
So that's still a bit of an open question, and it's not like in the Big 12 that they had quite the same environments as the Swamp. At A&M, certainly not an easy place to go play, but again, like we got to see it from Marcel Reed. There were a lot of games last year where he didn't look like a dude. Mississippi State, that's an easy win. Georgia, not easy, but also Kirby Smart has flubbed the transfer portal a couple years in a row. This year, I actually think he hit it. So just to be clear, Georgia fans, I think they're on the upswing with their portal stuff, but it's possible that they could beat Georgia. Florida fans will tell you they would have beaten Georgia last year had Lagway not gotten hurt. I don't know if I totally agree with that, but it certainly would have been a lot closer than if you had to play the kid from Yale. At Kentucky, again, I'm pretty out on Kentucky. I don't think they have much. At Ole Miss, a very big wild card team for you. Like they could be really good. They also could, kind of run out of magic potion when it comes to the transfer portal. And hosting Tennessee, I think Tennessee's a bit of maybe a build for 2016 this year. I think they had a bit of a pullback. So that's possible that they could get this done. I don't know what record you need to make the SEC championship game, but if you go 6-2 in the league, and one of those wins is over Texas or Georgia, I think your path to the title game is actually pretty well made because those are two important potential tiebreakers. Now, if you go 6-2 and you lose to Texas and you lose to Georgia, you're probably not making it because I think there's a decent chance both those teams do make it. Or like we said, the other teams that are not on the list, Bama, LSU, etc. But like, can you go 6-2? Can you go 6-0 against LSU, A&M, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Tennessee? It's not likely, but again, we're doing dark horse stuff here.
If Florida is 6-2 in conference play, they're going to the college football playoff as an at-large. I mean, this is the schedule where 9-3 gets you in the college football playoff.
So wait, we're talking losing at Miami, and then if they're 6
one of those wins has to be against Texas, and like if they beat Texas and Georgia and finish 9-3, I think that would be good enough. If they lose those games and finish 9-3, they're not getting it.
They do need. I think I agree with Tom. Like they would need one of those two games to be a lock at 9.
Okay, that's fair.
But also, like, it does depend on like how good is A&M, how good is LSU, how good is Ole Miss, how good is Tennessee, how good are Miami and Florida State. That's a lot of names. I think the odds are that one of those teams is going to be really good, and that would be a marquee win for you. But I think to guarantee it sitting here in June, A&M or Texas or Georgia, if you get one of those, you go 9-3. I think they're in.
6-2 in conference play, 3-1 in the non-con. You probably need to be.
I think they might have to beat both Texas and Georgia for that to work. There's a lot of teams and there's only 12 spots. And we saw last year, 2 losses is very important to the committee compared to 3.
Also, when did the losses come? Like last year, Bama getting smoked by Oklahoma in the second to last game of the year was not a good taste in the committee's mouth. If you finish really strong, I think you're going to have an argument, hey, like they kept playing well down the stretch, all that kind of stuff.
But Texas and Georgia, if those are the games, one of them's at home and one of them's in a very comfortable neutral site environment. So no road trips needed there. But I had Florida on my list as well. So much of it, obviously, riding on DJ. All right, Tom, where do you want to go?
This is something of a value play more than it is just straight dark horse, although they qualify. If you go through the odds board on FanDuel, where you're making every moment more, you find South Carolina at 25-1 to win the SEC, which makes sense because it's South Carolina. It's never won the SEC, so it's not going to have good odds. But Oklahoma has better odds. Tennessee, without Nico, has better odds. Auburn has better odds of winning the SEC. So I think from a value play, you look at this South Carolina team, they were on the precipice of reaching the college football playoff last year. They came up a game short. You look at what they have returning. Lenora Sellers is back. Reportedly, he got offered $8 million and turned it down. And I will just say, Lenoris, buddy, if you got offered $8 million for real and turned it down, I don't like your decision making. But moving forward,
Chat said that was fake, by the way.
I would assume it was. I saw it floating around. Yeah. Okay. Good.
I have not seen the tweet nor seen it reviewed.
I was gonna knock that decision making rating down quite a bit because I don't know if you're going to get $8 million in the NFL, buddy. So, but if Lenoris takes kind of a step forward, I think that will be very important. I think that they get most of their offensive line back. They got a transfer at center. They have their receivers back. On the defensive side of the ball, they lose quite a bit on the defensive line, but they brought in a lot of transfers. They get most of their secondary back. So I think there's experience on this team. And you look at this schedule compared to a lot of other SEC schedules, not terrible. Like, you get Clemson out of conference, but if you lose that game, that doesn't impact your ability to win the SEC because you're already done playing in your SEC games. I think Virginia Tech is a game that they can win and should win. Vandy at home, they should win. Missouri on the road, I'm on the record. I don't think Missouri is going to be great this year. I think Missouri on the road is gettable. Kentucky at home, winnable. LSU on the road, Oklahoma, winnable. Alabama, we'll see. Ole Miss on the road, I don't know. I think there are a lot of winnable games here for the Gamecocks if things go right. And obviously, if I'm betting anybody at 25-1, I need a lot of things to go right. So I do think there's a value, and I think that they are I think they qualify. I think this is a team that is not getting the respect it deserves considering the year it just had and the amount of people it has coming back.
Do you need Sellers to basically play like the number one pick for that to happen?
Not the number one pick, but I need him to play like one of the best QBs in the SEC.
Yeah, look, if you get that, then I can't refute that. The only thing I would say is we talked about the guys that they had drafted on defense. They also had an additional 9 undrafted free agent signees, which for a team like Georgia or Texas doesn't matter. But for a team that recruits like South Carolina, to me, that does matter a lot. So they do get their receivers back, who kind of sucked last year, to be honest, but they'd lose Josh Simon, the tight end, who was their go-to guy. Now, I think they did a nice job in the portal. I think they'll be better at receiver and pass catcher this year, but they lose Simon, they lose Rogers, they lose the linebacker, Van Martin Scott, they lose Gage, the receiver they got from Miami, Ohio, who could really never stay healthy. They lose, Rocket Sanders, okay, whatever. But I think like losing Huntley is a fairly big deal on the D-line. Like that, he played a lot of snaps for them, the O-lineman, whatever. I don't know, man. Like, that's also a lot of undrafted free agents who they lost.
But they also added Demon Clowney.
This is true.
I think South Carolina, to make the SEC championship game, probably needs to be 6-2. And as we mentioned, with any 6-2 scenario, you need to have the head-to-head tiebreakers. I forgot what the website was that created all of our tiebreakers that we needed, but South Carolina.
Yeah, I have it bookmarked somewhere, but I didn't organize
South Carolina would need to be in that kind of scenario. That's the way that South Carolina ends up making it. I will tell you that this is not only do you need Lenora Sellers, but man, they would need some injury luck. They would need an absence of attrition, because the way the schedule rolls out, the conclusion, the second half of that schedule, if you have injury issues on the defensive line or, any other position groups, they are going to get exposed against that LSU, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Clemson. It's the kind of setup where if we were judging South Carolina by the standards of, hey, if you make a bowl game, that's great. Yeah, absolutely. This is a team and a schedule where they're going to be able to go out there, stack wins early. You hope they pick off someone late, but they'll be bowling. On the other hand, if you're trying to talk about winning the conference or making the CFP, I don't think I see it for the Gamecocks this year.
Haters.
Who do you see?
Oh, me? I'm going to take
old Chip.
Listen. Auburn could do it. I mean, they're like,
man, you're going to say that South Carolina can't, and then you're going to immediately follow it up by saying Auburn can.
Oh, and you know who else is on my list? Oklahoma.
Get the man. I'm
look,
out of here.
This Oklahoma love is going. It's all over the internet. I understand
Tom
it.
took himself out of the chat.
Oh, God, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've got Florida, Auburn, Oklahoma, and Missouri on my list for SEC dark horses. And it sounds like Tom hates every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ryan,
all right, let's hear
on
Auburn,
Nebraska, and USC.
So, this is a good
Ryan
point.
makes a good point.
What is the through line there? The most toxic fan bases? Like,
that you're just on they're backest programs out there. This is the year they're back. I feel it.
Auburn certainly looks like it's a 7-5 schedule, 4-4 showing in conference play, but you tell you, What if Jackson Arnold, some transfer portal additions, one of the best wide receiver rooms that Hugh Freeze says he's ever coached? What if you go out there and you start to stack a little bit early? You start to gain a little bit of confidence. I mean, there is so much pressure on Auburn to take a step forward that Hugh Freeze had the confidence at a golf tournament to say the expectations are to make a bowl game. Everyone loved hearing that, especially at this point in his tenure. But if you are going to buy into Auburn, you are buying into Jackson Arnold, wide receivers, the offense being much, much better, and just simply having a level up at the quarterback position is going to give you a chance for more success. The schedule, as you can see right here, does give you a run that I liked a lot, where Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, you could stack some wins there before you obviously have the Iron Bowl, but the Iron Bowl is at home. So
you could also have 4 losses before you even get to that part of the schedule.
Listen, you need some things to go right. Auburn's been a dark horse before. Auburn has been claimed to be a dark horse more than they have been a dark horse, but I will submit my Auburn pick. I will submit my Auburn pick on the record here as a team that's going to be able to take a step forward.
I don't hate it with that schedule. I mean, like, that is one of the more friendly schedules, I think, in the SEC. Do you get there at 6-2 if you're Auburn, or do the tiebreakers screw you?
I think if they're 6-2, they're going to have some tiebreakers in their back pocket. Just what are the 6?
What if the 2 are Georgia and Bama, and the 6 are Oklahoma, A&M, Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vandy?
Then A&M's really the only tiebreaker that you got to worry about, I think.
Yeah, I think that
if A&M's losing at home to Auburn, they probably won't be in the picture.
Correct. Yeah. If you are actually like a SEC championship caliber team, like one that we don't have to fake, like this is a real matchup when we're previewing it for whoever they play, then you're not struggling with Missouri at home, at Arkansas, Kentucky at home, or at Vandy.
I saw Auburn's path in a dark horse they're just a 10-2 SEC team. And everybody would say, where are the wins? Where are the wins? And be pointing to it. I mean, 10-2 with losses to Georgia and Alabama against this schedule would be like Texas's profile last year.
Chip, I want to show bet with you.
Well, but Baylor might be very good. So 10-2 with that would at least give you.
Well, didn't Texas have the Michigan win? Like that would be about depending on.
That's true.
I think that the Auburn path is not necessarily to win the SEC. The Auburn path is against this schedule to finish 10-2 and then just have the propaganda machine, be talking about how incredible it is to win in back-to-back weeks on the road against Oklahoma and Texas A&M. No one has ever been able to string together wins against the Sooners and the Aggies before, they would say.
So Refresh Gaming says, how often a week are you faking it? I would say thankfully, because we cover the whole sport and aren't just locked in on the SEC or one league, very rarely. In conference championship week, we have to preview all of them. And a lot of it more is kind of like, oh, if this happens, it could be interesting. But like historically, and I was doing research on this morning, the SEC championship game is historically decided by more than 3 scores. That's both average and median. Okay. Like the median result is 17 points for the SEC championship historically. So for the most part, we don't get good games in conference championship weekend. Typically, they are stompings. So I would say for conference championship week, I do have to fake it sometimes if I'm stuck arguing the other side of like, hey, this could be interesting. Right?
Well, yeah,
kind of how it could be interesting as opposed to it will be interesting.
And I think longtime listeners know that we are ultimately just seeking whatever we think is the most interesting angle or topic to these matchups, which, exactly. Sometimes does have to be. And if we look at last year's SEC championship game, year 1 of them going no divisions, that game went to overtime. Some of the blowouts that we have seen in conference championship games have happened because the Big Ten East was stronger than the Big Ten West, or the ACC Atlantic was stronger than the ACC Coastal. And as every conference, except for the Sun Belt, who we can talk about them more tomorrow, we love the Sun Belt. We might be all in on Sun Belt. Sun Belt is holding out with its divisions. Everybody else is going no divisions. I would guess we see less of those kind of blowout trends now that it's top 1 and 2 instead of division winners.
Chip, you haven't answered my show bet challenge.
What I got to hear the bet.
Auburn and South Carolina conference wins.
Oh,
I
yeah,
get South Carolina, you get Auburn.
Yeah, that's fun. Show bet, 100%.
All right. $10,000.
Nope, I am out. That is a hard pass for me. I do not sign that. We have agreed in principle, and I'm going to walk away. This is like Frank Beamer in the University of North Carolina football program. Somebody go tell the NNO yes, but I'm going to tell you actually no.
I'm gonna take Auburn's side on that.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Can I? All right. Dinner bet.
Yes.
Dinner bet.
And
yes.
when we're
Dinner
covering
bet.
the Big
Sounds
Ten
good.
championship in Indianapolis, we'll dinner.
I like it. Okay.
Love that.
Dinner bet.
Okay. We put it into the record. Any other SEC team?
I mean, Tennessee because of the schedule in theory, but I don't know that I truly believe that they have the guys to go to hold their own if they make it. Nobody vouched for Oklahoma. I understand the argument. I just think it might be a stretch to think they're actually going to win the thing. You need a lot to go right.
Yeah.
Like you need the receivers to be healthy and ready and good. You need Mateer to be a real step up against good competition, which I don't know. At least we had seen Cam Ward play against a lot of Power 5 teams. To me, that's the difference. Mateer did it against basically a kind of a crappy Mountain West schedule, if we're being honest here. And I think he's a good player. I think he's a massive upgrade for Oklahoma, but we don't know. And we need the offensive line to be right. And we need the loss of some really important defensive leaders not to matter. And we need Brent Venables to actually become a good football coach. As a head coach, we know he's a great coordinator. But if all that happens, sure. Totally agree. Love it. Their D-line's great.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is I do think there's a high floor.
Yeah.
He just I know Thomas expressed some lack of some not buying into the John Mateer. Like of all these quarterbacks that we're expecting that and then is it the change? I don't want to speak for you. Sorry.
Clarify. I buy into John Mateer as a really fun college quarterback. I do not buy into the idea John Mateer is the kind of guy who can lead Oklahoma to the SEC championship.